Hi guys, it's Richardlizhu and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be reviewing the post-refresh 2023 Tesla Model X Plaid. Let's get started. From the exterior, there's only one way to tell the Plaid Model X apart from every other Model X, and that is the Plaid badge out in the back. This is a Star Trek reference that a lot of people are too young to understand, including myself. Also, while we're back here, you'll notice a giant wing. The Tesla Model X is the only one out of Tesla's lineup to feature a rear wing, so you can use this to differentiate the Model X out of every other Tesla from their lineup. It's a fixed rear wing, so it doesn't move up or down, but it's at the perfect angle to minimize visibility loss while you're driving. Next, we come to the charging door, which is cleverly hidden among this light, and you just press it to open. And it's kind of borrowed from the Model 3, it opens up, whereas the previous versions of the Model X would open forward. Now coming forward, we have the most iconic element of the Tesla Model X, which is its Falcon Wing Gull doors. Returning subscribers of the channel will know that I'm a sucker for weird and wacky doors. I have a couple of McLarens as well where the doors also go up, and I'm a sucker for them. However, on this, I feel like they're almost kind of a gimmick. They take a long time to open and close. And as a novelty, they're great, and it looks really nice out in a shot. But if I'm daily driving this car, it takes so long to open and close this door. Whereas a normal door, I could open and close it and be done. These doors have sensors in them, so that if you're parked really close to something, so they have sensors so that if someone's standing under them, they won't put that much pressure. And as you can just see, it just stopped. And if there's something to the side, it will open differently than it normally would, so that it minimizes the amount of space required to open up the door. And if there's a low roof, you can also program this door such that it doesn't open all the way to its tallest position. Now, if we come to the front door, the Tesla Model X is also special. Unlike the Tesla Model S, which has door handles which come out and you pull it, these are simply just buttons. So you press and the door can open and close by itself. And so what's nice about this is that this door can open to any of infinite positions. So normal car doors, they have just a couple of spots that you can open to, and it'll go to those fixed positions. But this, because there's a motor in it, it'll open to any of infinite positions. And so to close it, it also has soft close doors, so and then it'll latch itself closed. Coming up to the front, we see there's a front trunk, like in all Teslas, because there's no gas engine. On the Tesla Model X Plaid, there's actually surprisingly little space. Unlike the McLaren, this can't even fit my DJI Phantom drone. And so in this way, it actually has less interior frunk space than my McLaren 570S. Now, if you're 3'11" or below, and you get locked in the frunk of the Tesla Model X Plaid, then you just press this illuminated button, and the latch here will unlatch, and you can let yourself out. To open the frunk, there's no latch, and when you close the frunk, you just simply put it like this position. You put your hand right above the Tesla logo, and then just press down, and you'll hear it latch. If you hear a pumping sound and see water coming out of your Model X, don't worry. That's just the AC condenser going, and the condensation is what you're seeing leak out on the outside. Now coming back to the rear, to get into the trunk, you just press the trunk coffer button, and it's power operated. And if your garage is low, you can program the trunk to open to different heights so that you don't hit it if you have a low garage. To close it, you just press this button over here, and then if you give it a little force, it'll detect that there's something in the way and it'll stop the close. And then if you press it again, it'll resume. So now you can stop it, and this is how you program the different height levels. And there's something in the front screen that you can program. And then on the back, you can see there's a false floor, and you can remove this panel, and there's a really deep section here, and you can remove that part as well, and you get a lot more storage space. So now we go onwards to the interior of the Model X, and you can get the Model X in either 5, 6, or 7-seat configurations. This particular one is configured as a 6-seater with a 2-2-2 configuration, and there are 2 captain's chairs in the middle. So if you're trying to get into the back row, there are 2 buttons here. You press this, and the front seat goes forward. and it leans all the way forward for easy access into the back row. Now, I've currently put the back seats down, but there's a button here that you can press, which unlocks the back seats, and you can put it up, and the headrest goes up. Now, it's a relatively tight fit for an adult, but in a pinch, it's definitely usable. So in the back seat, I'm about 5'9", and my head still has a little bit of room, and there's this like big pillar staring me in the face here. It's a little bit claustrophobic, but you know, in a pinch, it'll do. At least you get air vents out here, which a lot of third seats don't get. So it's pretty nice. If we put the back seat up, you can also keep the headrest down for better visibility for the driver. And also, you notice back here that there are cup holders for the third row, as well as USB-C chargers. Now, on our way up to the second row, now this is much more luxurious. So because of the falcon wing doors and how they have glass at the top, there's actually additional headroom. You have clear sky above your head. One detriment of the middle row is that these captain chairs don't have any armrests, and there's also no handle here. So when the Tesla Model X Plaid is rocking off from 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, you have nothing to grab onto. Now, in the middle row, similarly to the back row, there are cup holders and USB-C chargers. But additionally, what you get is this nice touchscreen. So in this touchscreen, you can use it to operate the climate control. And so similarly to the front row, you can choose the direction of the air, and you can choose the temperature. You can also adjust the volume of the music. You can also change the heated seat settings for any of the back row or the middle row. And you can also move the front seat as well to give yourself more legroom. You can also choose the media, and also you can watch movies. I couldn't find any games here, although I saw that online. Another way in which the middle seats differ from the rear seats is that the middle seats are actually adjustable. However, there are only 2 degrees of freedom to the adjustment. You can move them forward and backward, or you can twist them forward and backward. And that will adjust the entire seat. Because it's all one piece, it'll all pivot forward and backward together. And finally, we come to the front seats. And here, we have 6 degrees of freedom in the seat adjustment. So you can have the lumbar more or less, or up and down, and then you can move the seat forward, the seat back, forward and back. You can move the seat forward and backward, up and down, and you can twist it forward and backward as well. Now, the giant elephant in the room is this yoke, as Tesla calls it. So one interesting thing is, this doesn't operate the horn, but this little dinky button there does. I've seen a lot of divided opinions online about Tesla's yoke, but I'm one of the ones who really loves it. It's one of those stupid gimmicks that I love, because I think it just is futuristic and it's different from everyone else. And I think more and more cars are going to have yokes in the future. So one thing that took a little bit of time to get used to about the yoke is because it's a yoke and it's a square, so if you take the midpoint of rotation, the different points on the yoke are not equidistant from the center like a circle would be. So it takes a lot less force to twist the yoke if you're out here where there's most leverage, and you can apply the most torque with the same amount of force. As opposed to here, it's really hard to turn it here. As opposed to in the corner, it's a lot easier to turn. Generally, for performance driving, you want to hold it at 9 and 3, but here it's a little bit difficult and awkward, and I think they intend people to kind of hold it here or hold it like this. But in driving school, they teach you to hold it at 10 and 4, so that's right here. You gotta figure out how to use this best, but I think once you get used to it, it's just the same as any other steering wheel. It's easy to get used to. Another thing about the steering wheel is that all the controls are on the steering wheel itself. There's no stalks or anything, and that was a little confusing to me at first. When I first got this car, I'm like, oh, how do you do the turn signals? But it's right here, just like Ferrari does it, right? Ferrari puts everything on the steering wheel. Then you have the headlights, the brights here, and I still haven't figured out yet how to turn them on for a long time. But as you can see in the dash, if you just hold it, it puts it on auto. So right now it's on auto. The left scroll controls the infotainment. So here we control the media volume, and then we can change tracks by pressing it left and right. Now, Model 3 owners will be used to this, but for me, it's a little difficult to kind of press it while I'm driving without holding it for too long, like pressing it for just the right amount of time. If you hold it for too long, it'll go to the next input source, and that's kind of annoying. And then we have the horn. This is the autopilot button. So when you're driving, you single or double press this, depending on your preferences, to engage autopilot. So this is the windshield wiper button. So as you can see, if you hold it, the windshield wiper goes. And then here is the final command button. So you can talk to it and say, call my mom. And it'll tell you your phone's not connected, because my phone's not connected. But if your phone were connected, it would call your mom. So that's what all the controls on the steering wheel do. And yeah, like I mentioned before, this does not do the horn, although I read in later versions, they actually made this into the horn, which I think is very nice, because it's just natural for people to just press this. And I think, you know, this doesn't lead to anything anyway. If this had a different function, that would be a different story. But I think this will also do the horn. But horn is here. After they refreshed the Model X, the center console is almost exactly like that of the Model 3 and the Model Y, which are some of the best-selling cars in America. So I won't go too much into the details, but you can pretty much control everything from here, and I think it's really great. Going down the center console, we come to the phone wireless chargers, which both sides are wireless chargers. If you're not using the phone key, then you put the card there, and that starts the car. And then here, you have the emergency hazards. And then here, this is what I think is really cool. There's so much hidden storage here. So we have 1, 2 hidden storage. So your cup holders are here, and then you have another hidden storage here. And this is so cool. Like, it opens to both settings. I don't know how they do that, but that's really awesome. This is really nice carbon fiber. And then here we have another deep storage pocket as well, that you can put a lot of hidden stuff. An even better party trick is that these both open up to reveal a huge hidden compartment down here. And this goes all the way up here, and you can put hidden documents inside here or whatever, but that's nicely hidden. And then when you put your foot on the brake, the door automatically closes. And it's like I have my own personal chauffeur. And then to open the door, you either click this button over here, and then if your car is somehow out of battery, which is really rare, I guess, for a electric vehicle, or if it somehow doesn't work, there's a manual open here. And I think a lot of people will accidentally go for the manual open, but the true one is right here. You open it like that. So when you get in the car, you put the key right here to turn it on, and then you tap to it says tap to activate drive. And so now it tries to predict whether or not you want to go forward or backward. And sometimes it could get it wrong, but in this case it's right. If it gets it wrong, you can drag for reverse. And when it's in reverse, it'll play a little chime. I think you can hear it, but that's for pedestrians so that they know that you're in reverse. And then when you put it in forward, it'll be like this. So now it says press to drive. So we press the accelerator and we can slowly go. And then now the turn signal is here. When you have a turn signal on, it'll turn on the corresponding correct camera from the mirror. And after you finish lane changing or turning, it'll automatically turn it off. So driving the car, it's pretty much the same as any other electric car, except it has a ton more power. So according to Tesla, it has 1,020 horsepower, and it does 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, which is seems it's, you know, the fastest and most powerful car I've ever driven. But actually, compared to the Model S, which has a claimed 1.99 0 to 60, it's actually a far cry. So I think part of what makes that up is the battery and the weight of this car. So the Model X is just heavier than the Model S, and it's less aerodynamic, it's taller. So 2.5 is very good. And, you know, compared to my McLaren, the Model X really just rockets. And actually, the fastest is actually not from 0, because when you're going from 0, it struggles to gain traction, so it'll cut down the power. So that you get full traction. But when you're just going at like 30 or 50, and then you gun it, it really rockets. And it's immediate torque. You know, the thing is, like, there's no transmission. So the car can actually take repeated amounts of it. One thing to note is, as the car gets lower in battery, the power will suffer a little bit, but it's still mighty quick. It's still very fast. So right now I put the car on autopilot while I talk about the car, and it says stopping for traffic control in 300, 200. And then it has everything here. It basically is like a video game. You know, this exactly is a real world modeling, including those couple of cones over there, which is very nice. We have 3 acceleration settings, which are chill, sport, and plaid. And so, you know, if this were on a 0 to 100 scale, if chill is 0, chill is about as fast as probably my Tesla Model S, actually 75D from 2016. So you can see how much the technology has progressed. So chill is probably that fast. Sport, I would say, is probably 30%. And then plaid is probably 100% if it were on a 0 to 100. And then drag strip mode is how you get the best launch. And it has to do some preparing and stuff like that. Steering mode, it has 3 different steering settings for the steering. There's comfort, standard, sport. I put it in sport, but I actually find that my McLaren has kind of spoiled me a little bit, right? So McLaren is, you know, has traditionally the best steering by far. It's hydraulic and it gives you such good feedback. This feedback is not as good. The sport mode just makes it more stiff compared to the comfort mode. So I actually think for most people, comfort is probably the right way to go. Suspension is a very interesting one. So one thing is, I've actually found that when the car's on comfort mode, like comfort, ride comfort and comfort handling, when you go over bumps like that, it'll kind of like, it's like an underdamped harmonic oscillator where it like keeps on bumping you for a couple seconds after the initial bump. And I think this is because they haven't tuned properly like the comfort setting, right? But when it's firm, it'll just kind of bump you once. It'll be a hard bump, but then it'll just be done. So I've actually found that the firm is actually more comfortable than the soft, which is like counterintuitive, but that's, you know, my experience. The autopilot's nice. I haven't figured out how to activate the full navigation, so like it won't do turns for me, and I haven't figured out how to do that yet. But you double click the button on the right to activate it, and you can single click to deactivate it. And for those viewers over there, you can see in the back, you can see that the rear wing bites into the visibility, and it kind of splits the view into 2, like above and a below. And so if the wing were at any other angle, then it would take up more of your visibility. So they've angled it at the perfect place such that, you know, you have the wing, so you get a little extra downforce, I'm guessing, so it's a little more stable at higher speeds, but it doesn't bite too much into your rear visibility. I must say though, because the Model X seems longer, at least there are 3 rows in the Model X, right? So it seems like all the way back there, I do believe that the rear visibility is not as good as that of the Model S. And then if you also notice, I left one of the headrests up and one of the headrests down. So it does make a significant difference if you keep the headrest up or down as to your own rear visibility. And so, yeah, like I mentioned, this car comes in 3 different configurations. You can have the 5-seater, the 6-seater, or the 7-seater. And I think the 6 and 7-seaters, because they come with the 3rd row, I think they actually eat a lot into the cargo room. If you took away those 2 seats, you would have like another space there that you could put more cargo. And I think with the 3rd row, there's like really no space in the back. So I actually find that the 3rd row is going to be very limited use. And so effectively, this is kind of like a 4-seater, but with 2 child seats maybe for the back. So the main thing where the Plaid is different than everything else is obviously the drivetrain. 1,020 horsepower, it comes with 3 motors instead of the standard 2. And it's all-wheel drive, and it's one of the fastest cars on the planet. So but other than that, I mean, it's your standard, you know, Model X, and it's very nice inside. It's minimalist. So I would say that the seats are probably like very soft. Yeah, the seats and the leather and stuff is like very soft. It has a nice give to it. It's not like hard, you know. The leather, I would say, is not the nicest because it's like, it's their fake leather, right? So it's not like super nice, and it doesn't patina well over time. But it's like nice and soft from the factory. It's definitely nice. And I wish Teslas would have cooled seats as well, but I think they only have heated seats at the moment. Yeah, even though they're perforated, they only have the heating function. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. So yeah, that never gets old. I've had this loaner car for a couple days now. And yeah, that just really never gets old. So honestly, if I had this car permanently, I feel like I would do that all the time and thus get a much lower battery range. So when you do that, it really cuts into the battery range, honestly. A 0 to highway speed pull is going to cost you like maybe 1 mile of range. So, you know, keep that in mind when you're doing this, and this really eats into the battery. So a rated like 60 miles of range, it'll actually probably only give you 30 miles. So keep all of this in mind when you're doing all of these things. And then one experience that I've had personally with this vehicle, just when it's staying overnight, it eats a lot into the range. I probably lose like 20 miles a day in range on this car. So I think that's like some kind of fluke. My Tesla Model S had this for a while, but it was a setting that I could figure out how to change. On the Tesla Model X, it's not my car, it's a loaner, so I don't, but yeah. I looked into it and it said because I was too low battery, it could enable the Sentry mode. So I think it's actually the Sentry mode that kind of eats into the battery. And it probably eats like 10, 20 miles a day, actually, I think. And this kind of checks out with what I previously experienced with my Model S when I had connected some third-party app, the Tesla app, which it would check into it periodically, and then so basically the car would be kept on, and so it would suck a lot of mileage every day, and just it being on and like connected to stuff, and I think that just eats into the mileage there. So yeah, there we go. I think Sentry mode eats like 10 to 20 miles a day. So if you really care about mileage and if you're not charging it every day, then I would recommend you actually don't turn on the Sentry mode every time. That's just a couple of things I've noticed in my couple of days of ownership. If you're considering getting the Model X Plaid, honestly, I would say probably just go for the long range. There's plenty of power anyway, and you don't really get to use the Plaid unless it's just for like these unless it's just for those like gimmicky pulls like that, right? Like there's no practical purpose that you need this, and it's a little bit dangerous, right? Like if like you keep your foot on the accelerator for 2.5 seconds and you're at 60 miles an hour, like it's like with great power comes great responsibility. So like having too much power is not necessarily a good thing for most of the population. Even myself, I'm like scared of this power. So that's just my thinking. Ready? So yeah, that pull right there was like 35 to 55, and it just like in the space between me and the next car, like there's just in so little space you can do so much, and this car is honestly very powerful and very fun. But is it worth the money? I mean, this is currently the most expensive Tesla in their lineup, and that's for everyone to decide for themselves, right? So yeah, the Yoke, definitely like it. One thing is, when you're turning, normally on a car, you can kind of release the steering wheel and it'll go back to where you want it in the right and controlled setting, right? But this steering wheel, you kind of have to guide it back into place. When you're turning, it won't turn back at like the right speed. It's kind of weird. It's hard to describe, but that's something I noticed when I was driving around. Like you have to monitor it on the way back. Like you can't just release the steering wheel and have it go back. Whereas a lot of other cars, you can just kind of release it and let it slide between your hands. This one, you kind of have to guide it back. And you can't even really let it slide because, it's a square, so. But when I was home, that's another cool thing. When the light just turned green right there, it beeped at me to tell me that the light turned green. That's a really nice feature. See, that's like one of those things that can only be done now with more computer vision, right? It detects that the light turned green, it gives you a little beep to let you know. So you don't have to really even be focused on the road when you're driving. So because the car has so many advanced cameras around it, we can do a lot of things now with computer vision that we couldn't do before, right? Without all of these cameras. So the turn signal, normally on a turn signal, it relies on the turning back of the steering wheel to know when you finish a turn, right? But for this car, because it has the cameras, it knows when you've done a turn or when you've done a lane change. So when you do a lane change, you just press the turn signal to go do the lane change. And then just like right now, I didn't press anything and it automatically stopped the turn signal after it sensed that I was in the next lane. So I think we've just started, we're just at the tip of the iceberg at what cars can do with computer vision, but there are so many things that can be rethought that have been done with other means in the past that can be replaced with like computer vision or machine learning otherwise. So yeah, I guess that's a little CS, that's a little bit of a ML engineer in me that is shining through on this one. But thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching my review of the 2023 Tesla Model X Plaid. Subscribe to my channel for more cool car content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.